Hey, it's Sue. Today I'm drawing another one of mine and my sister's Rise of the TMNT OCs. Her name is Jane. I had a lot of fun making this and I hope you'll come along with me in the process. Let's get right into it. So here you can see I sketched this piece digitally instead of traditionally this time. For all the other girls I did it traditionally, but this time I used the symmetry ruler and just decided to do it digitally because that was what sounded fun at the time. And you know, art's all about having fun. So I don't need the symmetry ruler on to sketch, but it just made it faster and I was feeling lazy when I did this, so I just figured let's just turn it on and, you know, get this done. I probably could have used the symmetry ruler for Sammy too, but since I was doing the line art straight from the sketch, I decided not to. So I probably draw all the girls roughly the same amount, but Jane definitely pops up in my sketchbook most because when I'm doing the comic, I am currently drawing the other three a lot since Jane has not made her appearance yet in the parts I am drawing. So I just get like my fill of drawing them then, and then it just sounds more fun to draw Jane. So she definitely shows up in my sketchbook a lot more than some of the other turtles, but that is not because I like her more, it's just because she has not appeared in the comic yet. So Jane's design was heavily inspired by an idea my sister gave me. I'll put it up on the screen if I can find it. I had run out of ideas since Jane was the last character I designed, and I wanted her to be unique, but I didn't know what to do. So I sent the line art I had already done to Star and had her draw over it, and she just did that to come up with an idea. The colors she did put on there were not the colors I ended up using. I did not like them at all. Like all those colors, they're great. They did not work together though. So I took that basic idea. I believe I stuck with it pretty much all except for the colors and maybe the placement of some of the vitiligo spots. So Jane is a vitiligo. I don't know all the side effects of being a vitiligo. I just know it makes her very unique and I think it's cool. Like a cool touch to her design. So I figured I'd put it on there. If it's not totally accurate the way I did it, I'm sorry, but probably not going to change it now just because I am thoroughly in love with Jane's design, so I'm going to keep it that way. So right now the face I'm drawing does not look that bad, but once I put the colors in it doesn't look quite right. I learned later that it's because I moved the eyes too far up, but I do end up fixing that the next day and then it looks a lot more like Jane. The whole process of making this video has given me a lot of trouble. I have enjoyed it, but I've had to redo this audio 4 times at this point. I was having a lot of trouble with the art just because I was having art block, and I was not enjoying the editing process, though it's not, I think I was just having video block. Like, you know, like writer's block and art block. I just wasn't having fun doing the video. I am happy with how the video ended up turning out, and I'm glad I persevered and did it because I did have fun making it in the long run, but whenever I was supposed to sit down and work on it, I'm just like, oh, do I have to? But I got through and I did it, and I'm happy with the way it turned out, so I hope you guys are enjoying it because I spent a lot of time on this. So, you better like it. That sounded like a threat. I'm threatening you. You better like it, okay? When sketching in Jane's accessories, I did it on a separate layer, so that way when I was erasing the things under Jane's accessories, I wouldn't erase the accessories itself, and it just made things easier. I did not do this with the other girls' character sheets just because I was drawing the line art straight from the sketch I had done traditionally, and it was just as easy to just, you know, go straight from the sketch to the line art without having to add any extra layers. I did still do the line art for it on the same layer just like I did for the girls, but for the sketch it was a lot easier to use the 2 layers to do it. the line art for this piece didn't give me too much trouble. I did keep the symmetry ruler on, just to make things easier on myself, but I did find I kept having to erase things when doing the line art, because like the bracelet on this hand ended up on the other hand too, because I used the symmetry ruler, and I had to go fix that, along with the vitiligo spot, patch, whatever you'd call it. That did end up on the other side too when it was not supposed to be. So as you can see in the line art, I did add under the main chest part of the plastroid, I added this little other thing that juts out. If you have ever watched Rise and paid attention to how their art is super closely, you will notice that the boys do have that on them, and I decided to put it on Jane because I figured it would make her look a little more cohesive with how Rise draws them. I did not put it on the other girls. I did not do it for Heather because you can't see it. And as for May and Sammy, it was because I forgot. Sammy's I might keep a little more subtle just to make her look slightly younger. Though they do have it on Mikey, so I guess that's kind of up for debate. I may end up putting it on her. It's just whatever ends up happening. Here I moved the stockings down because they were too high up, but that's way too low. I do end up having to move them up again later when I'm doing touch-ups. Just because that's not where they're supposed to be. So while doing the line art, I actually forgot one of Jane's vitiligo spots that is on the lower left side of her plastron. I do end up coming and adding it back in last minute when I realize it's not there. And I also have to add in the 2 spots that are covered up by her scarf on her top right side of her, because you cannot see them, and I end up putting them off in the top left corner just so I can have a reference for what they look like, because that's what the character sheet is for. So in just a second, I turn off the sketch layer and I do the touch-ups. Now this picture did actually have a lot of touch-ups for me to do, even though it may not look like it would. It's just because I was having art block and I was nitpicking everything, making sure it was all quote-unquote perfect. But of course, your art will never be quite to how you would like it. There's probably always going to be something you're like, I wish I would have changed that. But when you do progress and learn things, it just makes that all more satisfying, because you know you had that picture that you're like, I wish I would have changed that. And so when you fix things and change things and get better, it's just you're improving. So I tried to change this head size here because I thought it was off, and I do think it was, but I don't know if I ended up actually changing the head size that much because I moved it down and then back up. And here I thought the eyes were too small, but that was not the case. They were actually too high up, like I mentioned earlier, and I have to move them down later. So I finished adjusting a couple things with the liquify tool, and then I move on to adding in the lines for where I'll put the text. And then I do the weapons and shell. For when I was doing Heather's character sheet, I had messed up when I was drawing her weapons, and they ended up looking like this weird feather shape. And it wasn't just because I was thinking of how Heather's name was, or not Heather's name was, but her nickname was Feather. But it was because I was looking at Jane's weapon, which is a kunai. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But it's some Japanese weapon, and when you look at it, it does kind of look like a feather shape. So I was thinking of how it was kind of funny how Jane ended up with the kind of feather shaped weapon, and Heather with the knife when Heather's name was Feather, and or nickname was Feather. Keep messing that up. But yeah. So after I finished drawing her weapon, I duplicated it after, adjusting a couple things. So I would have an identical one, since she does have 2, since I believe that's how they were typically used back in the day, the olden days. I actually don't know if they still use them. They might. But here I'm going to do her shell, and her shell originally was inspired by the fact that she was a vitiligo, but later we decided that her turtle species was going to be a diamondback terrapin, so I went back and changed her shell design to better fit that. So if you look at the shell of some diamondback terrapins, I don't know if it's all of them or anything, but the picture I was looking at, on the outer side they had like these spirals, and I wanted to take something like that, put it on her shell, but I didn't know how to apply it. And then later when I was doing Minecraft with my sisters, I was looking at the chiseled block of quartz and I saw the spirals on it, and I'm like, hey, I could totally do something like that. And that is how I ended up with these spirals. I do think they work. They're obviously not 100% accurate to the diamondback terrapin at all, but they do get the point across and kind of just like show like that kind of thing. So as you can see, the shell has a lot of tiny crevices, which did give me a lot of trouble when I was coloring it. I've never actually had to color a shell before, I don't think. So it was like a realization to me that, my gosh, this has a lot of tiny spaces and it's going to be so annoying to color. But thankfully, a lot of times when you're drawing a Ninja Turtle, you see them from the front or like the side, and you don't see like the full shell or the shell pattern at all. So I guess that would make it easier, though it'll still be quite a big hassle when drawing the comic, because I have to fill in the shell every time we see it, and that's gonna be annoying. So here I moved on to doing her bio. As mentioned many times before, her name is Jane. She is a year older than May and Heather, putting her at 17, which is also a year younger than Raph in my story. So technically, I guess Raph isn't a teenager anymore there, but that is the age he is in the story, so I'm not gonna change it. Plus, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles rolls off the tongue so much better than just Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I'm not changing it. Anyway, back on topic, Jane is kind and quiet. She's also a loner to a fault, but is loyal to those she does get close to. She always tries to see the best in everyone, but will not be the first to trust you. She often doesn't show super strong emotion, but is very encouraging to her friends and family. She likes historical romance books and movies, along with baking, and her dislikes are being neglected, feeling responsible for something bad that happened, whether she truly is responsible or not, blackmail, and giant spiders. You know, you may get an idea of what her backstory is just from those last two dislikes. Anyway, I put down her turtle species, which is a diamondback terrapin, and her favorite colors, which are gray and purple. I do believe I forgot to put down the turtle species and favorite colors on Heather's character sheet. I will have to go back and do that if that is the case, though I am not entirely sure. So, I guess I'll have to look. Here I went and did the colors. They gave me a little bit of trouble, but not nearly as much as Sammy's did, because they didn't feel off. Well, actually, the stockings did feel off because they were slightly purplish when they were supposed to be gray, and that is actually how it was supposed to be, because I was making it fit better into the color scheme, and that's how it ended up. But yeah. See, this is where her face kind of started looking off because of the colors. I don't know what it was, but it just didn't seem quite right. I do go back the next day and fix that when I can kind of pinpoint what it is. Here's where I added in the vitiligo spot. You can't really see it right now because I had to lighten up her flash drawing because that was not the right color. But now you can kind of see it, and I do make it stand out more later when I add line art to it while tracing out the covered up vitiligo spots by, the ones that were covered up by the scar. Man, I can't talk today. So here I just do a couple more touch-ups. I enlarged the size of the pupils because I felt like they were off, and one of them was smaller than the other, so that looked weird and I wanted to change that. Then I just go in and add the colors for the weapons and finish the colors for the feet. Oh, and I do the colors for the shell too. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the tiny spaces did give me trouble on the shell. It was not easy to do that. The weapons actually had a lot of small spaces too because of the design around the outside that makes it look like kind of like it protrudes out a little bit in the middle. But that part did not give me nearly as much trouble just because of like how small of a space it was, and I didn't have that much to fill in. With the shell it was different because of how many small spaces they were, and I just needed to make sure I got all of them filled in. And even the outer line of the shell was like really hard to fill in just because it was so small. So here I added in the color behind the text. I put it in a blue, and then I realized I probably need to put it in her favorite color like I did for all the other ones. So I selected a purple and offset it a little bit just like all the other ones to make sure you could read the text easily. I then went in and did the shading. I had a lot more shading to do in this one because of like the flowy objects, yeah, the flowy fabrics and stuff, I guess. It caused a lot more shadows to be cast because of how they were flowing over everything, and I had to make sure I got everything in there so it looked like it actually belonged over it. Normally for shadows, I'll use a blue for like on a layer set to multiply for like cool like color lighting, or like a purple on a layer set to multiply for like warmer lighting. But on this I didn't have either types of lighting, so I just went for a black to make sure it like didn't look out of place. Yeah, and it also fit in with all the other girls' character sheets, so I think that definitely made it like fit in. I feel like a lot of this video is me just rambling on about random things, because this is actually a lot longer than my other videos because it's like 17 minutes and the other ones are usually just like 11. Yeah, I feel like it only made it to this like long because of how much I had to keep editing with Jane. And I did film, I believe, all of it just because I didn't want to leave you out of the process. But here's where I came back the next day and edited her face because I felt like it was off. Without the colors, it looks fine, but for some reason the colors just make it look so wrong, and I don't know what's off about it. Yeah, here I've moved the eyelashes down, but that just made her look worried. And then I just decided to try and move the actual like eye part down, and that worked, but that made her forehead too big, so I had to move that down later. I had a lot of adjusting I had to do with this picture. It was not necessarily fun because I'd already done the colors, but I mean, I got it done, and I like how it turned out after this much more than how it was looking. Because I had so much art block while making this, I will definitely be posting the video on art block next. While I'm recording this audio, I've actually already filmed the video. I just have to do the editing and make sure everything's how I like it. But then I'll be bringing that out, and I hope you guys will like it because I actually worked really hard on it and filmed it like 3 different times. But I do like how it ended up turning out, and I hope you guys will enjoy that video. Anyway, here is the finished picture of Jane. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you have, consider liking and subscribing. I had a lot of fun making this, and I hope you will join me in the next video. Bye!